I always wanted to go to Japan.
Hello and welcome to the final
day.
part of our fantastical tale. We sit on the eve of the rebirth of Square Enix's new world. Almost exactly 3 years after the original catastrophic launch, Eorzea was going to be getting a second chance. But this time, everybody knew it wasn't going to be getting a third.
Yep, make it or break it, and we all know that they made it. Part 3, The New World. The New World, baby.
Once Dalamud had struck, Yoshida-san moved the 1.x patch team into the main team working on A Realm Reborn, taking lessons from contemporary MMOs, feedback from players over the 1.x phase, and elements that work from the original version. They crafted a modern Final Fantasy XIV set in a vibrant world that reflected the energy of the franchise. And for Yoshida-san and some other members of the team, this was going to be a very public thing, as they took the short train ride from the office in Shinjuku
What's
to
this
Shibuya
score thing?
to take part
Hold on. Y'all couldn't see that.
launch event.
What's up with this in the bottom left? Is this chocobo? Is this a chocobo racing thing that they're doing down here? Is this like, or is this like a benchmark of some? Oh, official benchmark exploration. Oh, interesting. It's a benchmark. It's a benchmark. Never mind. I thought they were chocobo racing.
They took the short train ride from the office.
You know, it sounds like they did need to benchmark, right? Because they did have a lot of technical difficulties, as we learned with 1.0.
In Shinjuku to Shibuya to take part in a very special launch event.
その渋谷のイベントへ向かうために朝電車に乗ってた。で、少しリハーサルを当然やらなきゃいけないので、まあ少し早めに家を出て、ああいよいよ発売日かって思いながらその
Every expansion had a benchmark.
乗っていたら。ちょうどそのドアの近くに立ってたんですよ。そしたらそのドアの僕は右側に立ってたんだけど、左側に立っていた男の子、多分大学生ぐらいだと思うんだけど、緑の綺麗な男の子がすっと僕のとこに寄ってきて、小声で「吉田さんですよね」本当に発売おめでとうございますってプレイヤーですって言われたんですよ。
Remember, they were talking a lot about like, okay, look, if we don't do this for ourselves, like, what about all the players who are sticking by us, who are vouching for us, who are still playing the game and telling people it's gonna get better? We gotta do it for them, right? So, Endwalker is the one where you storm Garland modified Xenos in the tower. Oh, that's what they use for the benchmark. Got it. The college student was Link from The Legend of Zelda.
そんな状況でまあそのイベントを始めてでまあみんなでそのまあここまで来る話をまあステージでしていて最後まあマイクが当たってきて話をしようとしたらその朝そう言われたことをちょっと思い出しちゃっていやいろいろあったなって思ったら言葉に詰ま
I've seen this before. I feel like I've seen this like clip before, or I don't know. Yoshi P has gotten emotional many times on camera, right? But I feel like I've seen this.
終わっちゃった瞬間にその来てたプレイヤーたちお客さんたちが
It's a popular clip.
頑張れって言われちゃってもう昨日もちょっと話したように MMO って発売してもそれがゴールじゃないスタートなので。なんかあんまり干渉に浸ってる暇なんて本来ないんだけど思わずこう
No. I get what he's saying, but I feel like that's what separates Yoshi P and maybe, you know, just the Final Fantasy XIV devs in general is, you know, stopping to
あんまり干渉に浸ってる暇なんて本来ないんだけど
for this emotional recollection
思わ
here.
ずこうプレイヤーに
Like, you know, caring about the player base. Like actually caring about the player base, right?
頑張れって言われたせいで泣けてきちゃって恥ずかしかったですね
運営を続けていこうと思います。本当にありがとうございます。そしてこれからもどうぞよろしくお願いします。
Almost 3 years after its original launch, Final Fantasy XIV A Realm Reborn was released on PC and PlayStation 3 on August 27, 2013. So, they kind of glossed over, unless they're going to talk about it more in this vid. If they care about the player base, then why don't I have a house? Because you're a disaster. I don't know if they're going to talk about this more, but they kind of glossed over the actual development of A Realm Reborn. It sounds like we're kind of skipping to the reception of it. But maybe they talk about it more here. I don't know. That was the last part, but like I'm talking about like more of like the intricate details of A Realm Reborn. Yeah, no, they were talking about the spreadsheet and everything, but I was hoping to get more like, you know, maybe like other technical things that happened.
Final Fantasy XIV, A Realm Reborn is a great MMORPG experience on both PC and PlayStation 3. Grounded in tradition and learning from the lessons of the games that preceded it, it thrives on the
Zemio
strengths
Darkhold.
of its excitingly varied and flexible class system and highly mobile combat.
The game's rough launch is mostly over, but you still might have to contend with login errors. But this is, by and large, a very
Oh, look
good
at this.
massively
Oh, this is a familiar
multiplayer game,
cutscene.
filled with lots of stuff to do, gorgeous vistas to behold, and lots of adorable narrative touches.
The challenge ahead for Square is to achieve the delicate balance of questing,
Yeah.
dungeons, and fates for the second half of the leveling process, as well as it has the first. But considering the
8.6.
stunning reversal of fortune that Square has achieved here, it seems like anything is possible.
That's good.
So what was it like then on your end after, you know, years of working on this game, having the launch, basically being required to work on two separate games at the same time, patching one and then building an entirely new one, almost in secret for a large part of it, to then see, like, what was it like reading reviews and reading message boards when people were like, oh fuck, they did it?
Running to 50 was
I mean, we were just as
worth the
surprised.
days, huh?
I mean, not as surprised because again, it was definitely different. You know, in those months before releasing the original, I mean, I knew that
They felt good about this one. They, you know, because they were talking about when they were getting up to launch for 1.0, the people were like, yo, this is going to be shit. Like, hey, I have a bad feeling about this. But this one, they're like, I know this is going to be good,
the
right?
game wasn't in good shape, and so it's kind of you're lying to yourself, trying to say, no, this is going to be good. They're going to like this part. They're going to like this part. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. But with A Realm Reborn, playing it's like, this is a really good game. I mean, you're playing like enjoying it, you know. But there's still that little bit in the back of your mind that's like, you know, and it's what we were told, is that once the game has been reviewed, even if you try to rebuild it, everyone's going to remember the old. They're not going to look at the new. And Metacritic never forgets. When 14 came out, the original, and it was maybe people were like, okay, I think, you know, I'm a hardcore offline Final Fantasy guy, but I'll try out this new one. But then, okay, it's terrible. See, I knew it. It's terrible. They're not going to want to come back for a second time. It's like, no, I already played that. It was terrible. And so there was just this feeling that even if it's a really great game, no one's going to play it.
I could totally see that, right? I mean, it's kind of like you think about like Steam reviews or something, right? Or any game that's kind of made a comeback, but a lot of people do hold on to that first. Like the release is like, that's the big ticket moment, right? Like the release got to be good, or otherwise the game or whatever product is going to carry you know, a certain reputation, even if it ends up being better in the future, right? The best part of A Realm Reborn was if you told people you played FF, they'd say, wait, didn't that game die? Well, now, I mean, yeah, those are like VIPs. They're part of history, huh? To say that you were there for the dark times. And you've made it this far. Right, Lily? That's Lily right there.
They're just going to like brush it off because it's the bad Final Fantasy Online that I tried, you know, in beta and it sucked, so I'm not going to play it anymore. And so yeah, we were afraid of that, but then, wow, it was just, I mean, servers.
This kind of reminds, because we were already talking about this earlier today, about YouTube in general. This kind of reminds me as my mind state when it comes to like making videos and stuff is, you know, you can analyze and overthink as much as you want, but when it comes down to it, just make something good. You make something good, it'll be good, right? Just make something good. The good stuff ends up rising to the top. So even with all these worries and doubts, if it's good, It's good, and people are going to recognize that.
Breaking on, not breaking, but like servers getting so packed with people in those first few days, and then seeing the reviews come in, and you know, they saved, and then they start saying things like, you know, you saved the franchise, and
but you shut your mouth. You shut your mouth, Sastra.
And I don't know, remembering what it was like, you know, at their launch of 1.0, and then just being able to, because who gets to re-experience a bad launch? It's something you don't get in the game industry. And
especially in MMOs.
And we did, and it was a great experience to be able to say, it was just that vindication of like all of that extra work that we had put in. It was what Yoshida-san had promised us. If we worked hard and we did this right, that in a year and a half's time, you know, we can do this. And a lot of people didn't believe him, and you know, a normal person probably wouldn't believe him. But I mean,
I'm sure. Okay. Yeah, I hit 600. No, that wasn't the promise. That wasn't the promise. That was not the promise, okay? That wasn't the promise. I never promised that. I told you when we get to 10,000.
Maybe that's why we were able to do it, because all of the abnormals remained and made
that was
something
not
that
the
was,
promise.
you know, literally impossible happen.
やっぱりサーバーがあまりにもその混雑してその遊べない、せっかくパッケージをお金を出して買ってきたのにゲームが遊べないとは何事だ。まあオンラインゲームだから当然サーバーに繋がらないと遊べない。
Oh, I was gonna bring this up. Because they were talking about, he was just talking about like how, you know, we had this crazy plan, and you know, Yoshi P was, you know, as the leader was saying like, all right, this is we got to do it in this time frame. Here's what we got to do, and he was saying how like, you know, a normal person might think like, oh, he's crazy, like there's no way to do it. I was wondering, I mean, Yoshi P by this point, he's probably built up an internal reputation in the company, working on other things anyway, right? So I'm sure there was some good faith to be had when he kind of took over this game, and for the rest of the workers and organization to be like, okay, this is Yoshi P here. He's saying this like, yeah, I believe it, right? You could tell when FF is doing well because they stop selling it and tell people to go away. Oh, I remember they did that for the Endwalker launch, or was it Shadow? It would yeah, I remember something. Yeah, right. They were telling like, hey, like we're not selling. It's too crowded, right? He's already working on 16 by the point this is being filmed. Right, but at the time it wasn't necessarily 16. Oh, by the point this was being filmed. By the time this was being filmed, I thought you were alluding more to the before he got pulled on to 14, which was before this was filmed. How he was working on the other game that maybe turned out to be 16. Yeah, Login Q Savage. I remember that. Yeah.
なんか評価とか以前の問題で、その買ってもらったのに遊べない状況を作ってること自体が、その僕にとってはショック、まあ、あんなに来るとはもちろん思ってなかったっていうのも要因ですけど、だから評価云々の前にまずちゃんとゲームに接続して遊べるようにしなきゃっていうことばっかりが。
I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's not that I played a lot of new releases, new MMOs, but I always hear stories about, you know, login queues and everything. And I feel like that's kind of maybe par for the course for like a new game, a new launch, a new MMO, right? It's usually kind of hectic from a technical standpoint for the servers and everything for a little bit, right?
当時の1ヶ月半ぐらい出荷を停止したりとか販売を停止したりとかそれしか全然覚えてないですね。
With most other genres, this would be the part of the story where we fade to black and roll credits, but such luxuries don't exist in the world of massively multiplayer online games. In fact, after the release of A Realm Reborn, or 2.0 as they call it internally, the team applied the same content-rich patching schedule they had undertaken with 1.0, releasing a significant 2.x patch to the game every 3 to 4 months. Over the next 2 years, these patches progressed the story of ARR, added in epic raids and new modes such as 72-player PvP battles. But just like before, while the team was working on these 2.x patches...
Yo, there was a big-ass Rogan dressed as Alphino.
Like before,
right there. Maybe? Is that the Alphino? I don't know. It kind of looks like Alphino right there.
While the team was
working
on these 2.x
player
patches,
right?
they were concurrently building an updated version of the game. the first expansion pack,
Heaven's Ward, so good, so good.
2014年の10月9月10月ぐらいかな、開発チームにも吉田さん申請したら楽になるって言ってませんでしたっけってバカ MMO これだけ巨大な規模の MMO は最初のエクスパンションパック出すところまでがスタートダッシュなんだよって言ってごめんねって。
Well, I mean, it was what was in our minds was
Stormblood over
not
Heaven's Ward? Hell
having
no.
another letdown. Don't take for
Hell
granted
no.
that the rebuild was a success.
That's true. I mean, you think about this. I mean, we're talking about expansions here, but I often think about like sequels to games. Something part 2, right? And how a lot of the, I feel like anecdotally, a lot of the times, maybe it doesn't like live up to what the first was. Maybe it's part of that's because, you know, maybe the first brought something to the table and it's hard to recapture that magic, or maybe there was just some, you know, changes to the design or development, and but that does happen. It does happen sometimes with sequels and whatnot, right?
Success. We can't just expect our users to say, "Oh, they're going to release expansion, so we can do whatever we want."
Movies,
and it doesn't matter. They'll buy it. Ha ha ha.
Books, games.
There was none of that sense. One good thing that came out of the failed launch is that it's instilled into, you know, the.
Yeah, they're like, we can't fail again. We gotta do some big shit here.
The developers, all of the developers' minds that, you know, we have to always strive to be better. We can't, you know, let our guard down. It's in everyone's mind, and it's always lurking back there. We don't want to repeat that, and because of that, everyone is like always on the top of their game.
Is that still there even now? Because it's been 3.5 years.
Well, I mean, yeah, the old guard, yes, we all have that. We all have that. But it's not all the old guard anymore. People have moved off onto other projects. Some people have.
Is anyone worried about 7.0? Have you ever thought about that? I'm not worried. I'm not even thinking that far ahead. But do you think there are people who are worried about 7? I'm talking about players who are like, all right, this is the end. Like, you know, 6.0 is the end of, like, you know, the arc, like the big arc that we've been in for, you know, a decade or whatever. What's going to happen with 7.0? I bet maybe they're probably worried too. I mean, you know, there's probably some anxiety of like, okay, this is like the new thing. Like, we got to make it good too. But they, you know, the patches have been great so far, and Shadowbringers and Endwalker was good. It's hard to follow, right? Shadowbringers and Endwalker, but you got to do it. Heaven's Ward, Ugly Zones, Dumb Villain, Pope, Worst Trial, Limitless Blue. Well, okay, I get that, right? Because when I think of Heaven's Ward, I don't think of the whole Holy Sea arc. I think more of the Dragon Song arc. That's what I consider Heaven's Ward. Even though, you know, Thwarted and all that was a big part, but for me, it was all about the Dragon. Season 2 of a series, first sequel to a game or movie, etc., they can often suffer a bit of a letdown as they try to recapture or capture the magic of the first one while trying to be different, right? Yeah, it could be tough to follow sometimes. 7.0 will probably be a building expansion. I expect it to be slower and probably worse received than Shadowbringer Endwalker. I wouldn't be surprised if it was worse received. I mean, I always thought, like, you know, one of the reasons why Shadowbringers and Endwalker was so good is because we're finally getting resolution, right? Climactic resolution to a lot of the mysterious questions that we're trying to answer. Or for me, it took place over the course of a year, but as the players were trying to answer over the course of many years, right? The game just got better and better for you, so agreed on Stormblood being better than Heavensward. Same. I don't know, man. I just, for me, Heavensward I like more than Stormblood. It's like the different. I don't know, the dragon. I don't know. I really like the dragon arc there. I also for me, the side characters in Heavensward were stronger to me than the ones in Stormblood. Heavensward 3.0 to 3.3 is great, one argue, but base 3.0 is not great. Got it. Yeah, I mean, to each their own. To each their own, right?
Have left the company to go freelance, you know, explore new opportunities. A lot of new.
Though I will say, Stormblood, up to when playing through Stormblood, the villains of Stormblood to me were the best villains that we had ever seen. They truly felt villainous to me. Like Yotsuyu and Xenos. To me, those two were like, when I saw them, I was like, these people are just, they're just villains. They're actual villains. They're actual, you know, right? Compared to what we've gotten before. Also, those masters just completely forgot about Hilda. Hilda was badass, and yeah, that's true, right? Yeah, Hilda I haven't seen, there hasn't been any Hilda action. You like from the feast to the final showdown with Nidhogg better than just after Nidhogg up to Lakshmi's solo fight. Stormblood had great villains, great zones, better trials. When you're thinking of zones and trials, you would hope that would get better with every expansion, right? I mean, something like a trial, right? Part of it is not just the, you know, who are we fighting, where are we fighting? It's like the technical fight itself, like making improvement, like more in-depth fighting and all that too, right? I don't know. I always like the snowy vibe though. Even though not all the zones are Zoe, but that's true. Stormblood had the step, which was a really great arc. But for me, I think, you know, and there were a lot of good, I mean, there's so many good characters in all the expansions. For Heavens Were, I don't know, Amaric, Estinian, Ysael, and then, you know, the dragons, Orchifant, like them, like having their shining moments and shining throughout the expansion. I really like those characters. It's great that we can debate about it. Like, I think it just shows you how good overall the expansions are. You could have these debates of like, well, which one was actually better? I mean, clear. Like we're posing the question as which one was worse, but the answer, the real question is which one was better, because they're both really good overall, for me at least.
New people have come in, and so a lot of people, yeah, don't remember, you know, what happened in 1.0 because they weren't
summer
there.
children.
That's right, exactly. And you know, us old timers can tell them, well, back in my day, we did it, and they'll be like, yeah, okay, whatever. Back in my day. And you know, sometimes it does feel like that. There's always the chance that, you know, you can just get too full of yourself and not do 100%, not learn from your mistakes, and that, you know, the community was like, no, we're done. And, you know, we were lucky to be given a second chance. We were really lucky to have that second chance actually succeed.
I mean, I know he's just being modest, but I wouldn't call that luck. Remember what we talked about earlier? You make something good, it's gonna work out. You just gotta make something good, man. You make something good that people are gonna recognize. I mean, sure, there's definitely luck part of it, but you know, you make a polished game, then people will catch on eventually. Hopefully.
I don't know. Third time, I don't know if I want to, you know, press my luck any further. It's not a good, fun situation to be in. The things that I've learned over these past 7-8 years working on 11, the original and the new and the expansion.
Whoa, this is looking kind of gnarly right here. Choose your character's race and gender. Holy shit. That's a Galka? What the hell's a Galka? This dude looks like he's like 20 feet tall.
Is something that I'm going to carry with me to all future projects, as it will with, I mean, all of the other devs that have done that. Tons
of good things die unnoticed deaths, in my opinion. I can see that for sure, yeah. It's a row with a tail. It's a proto-row. Oh, a Galka.
A piece of that Final Fantasy XIV 1.0, a piece of that, you know, ARR and the expansions will be with all of them. And, you know, hopefully they'll be able to use that in all their future projects.
Heavensward was another win for the team. Critically praised and loved by the community, it helped push cumulative subscriptions for the game beyond 5 million. In fact, the amount of players in Eorzea has kept rising.
当然上がり下がりはあります。上がり下がりをしながら少しずつ右へ上がっていくっていうのが、まああんまり他の MMO ではない曲線なのかもしれないですけど、とにかくゲームデザインでずっとこのファイナルファンタジー14というゲームをプレイし続けていなければついていけなくなるとか。
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's preaching it here too, right? You don't have to play every day. It's not a chore. Just enjoy it and then enjoy your life.
その一度やめてしまったら戻れないっていう風に絶対にならないようにっていうのが14のゲームデザインの根幹にある。
He's like, let's be real. All y'all are old. Most of you are old. You got lives to deal with, right? So, you know, I'm gonna try to help you out here.
なぜなら今本当にみんな忙しい。一つのゲームだけになんだろう、毎日ログインし続けられるわけじゃない。それはもともと MMO が大好きな僕ですらそうなので。
My favorite parts of A Realm Reborn was the ending, but Teleji, Adeleji, and Lolorito, some of my favorite characters. Lolorito is one of my favorite characters in Final Fantasy XIV, but they did some, I love those characters. They did some power moves in A Realm Reborn there. I respect that. That wasn't the philosophy during ARR. Was ARR like super grindy? I mean, I could a lot of MMOs, especially back then, are probably pretty grindy, right? You calling me old? We are old. I am old too, don't worry. Teleji, Adeleji, but to the tune of Smooth Criminal. Teleji, Adeleji. I feel like you've told me that before. The feast was my favorite thing about post ARR. For me, that was the turning. I was having fun in A Realm Reborn, but the feast in ARR, that was the moment where the switch flipped for me. I was having fun up to that point, but when that happened, I was like, oh shit. Like, things are getting real. I don't know. Do you all think that, and it's not like a game or a story or a movie has to have this, but I feel like after A Realm Reborn, like it felt like there was urgency. Like anything could happen to any character. And I feel like that sense of urgency kind of faded after amount of time. Like I was on edge after A Realm Reborn. I was convinced that everyone was a traitor and that that anyone could die at any moment. But then, you know, like the Sultana came back and everything. When the Sultana came back, for me, I was like, I kind of lost like that sense of urgency for, you know, characters. If that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense. In Endwalker, I'm sure it reflected in my reactions, but when we were going through the end of Endwalker, I wasn't like, I didn't get very emotional because part of me was like, these characters are going to be fine. They're going to be okay, right? They stopped killing off characters because they realized it's burning huge investments, in my opinion, and people got really attached to them. Yeah, I could see that. If they died, it's still, and again, I'm not saying people have to die to make something impactful, but if they died, it'd still make the point that hope wins over despair. Even if shit gets bad, you keep walking forward, right? I think, yeah. I think part of me was like, after that point in A Realm Reborn, I was like, oh, well, like we're going that route with this game, and I was very intrigued. Like it's not just a hero story. It's not a shonen where everything is just like picture perfect and it's gonna work out. It's like, oh, like things are gonna get rough, and I was like kind of down for that. But then, you know, as the game kept progressing, I was like, okay, this is the hero's journey. Like, you know, things are gonna be fine, right? Even though you get what I mean. You were searching for the picture still, got it. If they killed off any of the Scions for real, people would have quit 100%. I could totally see that too. I just thought like maybe like they're gonna take a different approach. Like whoa, like not a lot of like, you know, hero stories, like, you know, bright fantasies like go that route. I was thinking at the time that if there was any good time to do it, that was it. They did kill a member of the Scions. They did, Papalimo. But here's the thing. I'm still waiting for Papalimo to return. I've been saying it. I said it all the way through Endwalker. I'm like, when's Papalimo coming back? Because that's kind of like the game that this is. I think they still regret killing off Ysayle. Don't forget Moonbrita. Yeah, Moonbrita. There were still impactful deaths. My expectations were different heading out of A Realm Reborn. Just like the overall vibe of, but the best comparison I could make was like, oh, are we going like kind of like Game of Thrones route now? Like where, you know, anyone can go? Like I was like kind of down for that. Like, yeah, like this is gonna get gritty. You'll only quit if Harry Boulder dies. AR and Heavensward team different than Stormblood, Shadowbringers, and Endwalker team. AR team now on Final Fantasy XVI. So prepare for death. 16. I mean, I'm expecting some dark shit because you know how they were describing that initial game that Yoshi P was working on, that IP that we were surmising probably part of that became 16. They described it as like a dark medieval fantasy. Like they said dark. They had the word dark in there. I know they probably hate killing people, but at the same time, it does help to make the world feel real. Yeah, it's a hero's journey. This is the best way I could describe it. It just came to me. It felt like there were stakes after the end of A Realm Reborn. But, you know, starting to progress through the game, and then it felt like, you know, okay, maybe the stakes aren't as high as I thought. Helps you connect in ways that deepens how you feel about them. Yeah. The amount they talk about mental health of the player base, I really don't think that's true, right? That is true. I've actually, so this was surprising to me, but, you know, I was watching somebody play through the end of Endwalker. You know, some people in chat and even the streamer were like, okay, like this is getting very heavy right now. Like let's take a breather. And people in chat were saying like, yeah, like when I got to this point in the game, like I had to like, you know, I had to put it down for a second because this was like very intense for me. So, you know, it does vary, right? The mental health, the mental states, or the, like I'm very numb to, you know, graphic content. I think part of it is because I recognize it's a game. Maybe some people are more immersed than I am. That could be one thing. But I grew up, when I was a kid, I grew up watching rated R movies because my mom would just rent them and I would watch them with her. So I'd watch people killing each other and, you know, I'd see adult themes all the time. So I'm kind of numb to that. But yeah, I totally see that. How much would you care about Ysael or Orchifon if they hadn't died? That's true too, right? Like I like Orchifon and Ysael, especially Orchifon, right? Has a legacy in this game because he's gone. The character is gone. Ysael could still be a character today. At the end of 6.55, the Warrior of Light will die, but become what in 7.0? Look how much people like Astinia now. Imagine if they killed him off instead. Your childhood was uncensored, and look how it turned out. Right. But yeah, it's a large player base. So there's definitely varying degrees of susceptibility to, you know, intense themes in mediums, right? I'm a little more like stoic or when it comes to that, or numb, just because I grew up, you know, and I grew up, you know, playing, you know, shooters and whatever, right, as well. But that's also just how compelling the story is, right? That it can shake people to their core sometimes. It really depends. Like a good example is like, maybe this might be kind of an extreme example, but like Saving Private Ryan. Like I watched that movie, I love it, like it's dope. But then you hear stories about like, you know, vets who watch it and it's like, damn, this shit's so real. Like it gave me like PTSD, like, or like I couldn't watch like the, you know, the Normandy scene, right? Because people have different, you know, personal experiences and everything, right? Which is fine. It's okay.
考えた時に遊びたい時に遊んで、メジャーアップデートが来たら一気に遊んで、少し落ち着いて他のゲームを遊んだり、
How do we start talking about that?
したり、でまたメジャーが来たらそれでいい。
Spend some time with your families. Yoshi P is saying right here. You can relate. Matt Damon gives you PTSD too. Dude, we had a young Matt Damon, we had Tom Hanks, we had a young Vin Diesel up in there too. Tom Sizemore, man. Tom Sizemore. The actor who played the medic, who played Wade, who also went on, I think he's a really good actor, but he was also the goofy dude in Ted, the pedophile in Ted also. But like in Saving Private Ryan, like he had one of like that death scene. Always, like I'll always remember that one. Hollywood has spent millions trying to save Matt Damon. That's true. The Martian. I'm sure there's other movies, but that's the other one that came to mind.
いいと思ってるし、これからの MMO はそうじゃないと多分やっていけない。
We've talked about this before too. I think part of it is also I don't know what the average age, just as MMOs as a whole. I wonder what the average age is for MMOs as a whole, but for me, I feel like a lot of the player base playing MMOs who maybe grew up playing them, like started when, you know, around when I was a kid, give or take 5-10 years, whatever. But I feel like a lot of us have to be in our 20s, a majority, right? 20s and 30s, right? We're getting older. We have lives, like we have responsibilities, jobs, family, kids, whatever, right? It has to be. You think it's 30? MMOs as a whole, yeah. Like I wouldn't be surprised if it was like 30 now. No kids playing MMOs. That's what I wondered. I wonder how many kids are actually playing MMOs. 27 to 35 is your guess for the average. I feel like that'd be a decent guess. 25, 35, yeah, maybe something like that, right? But maybe Yoshi P knows that too, because he's saying it has to be like that, or else MMOs, they're not going to stand a chance.
でやっぱり大きくゲーム1本分の新しい体験が来た時全員集合して 最新のファイナルファンタジーをプレイしてもらい
Thank God kids ruin
そ
everything.
れが基本ベースにある
But that's the thing, you can't have that mindset because when I was a kid, when I was a middle school kid playing World of Warcraft, my best times were with this group of like 20-something-year-olds. I think some of them were like software engineers. They were talking about it, but they were like the adults, and they took me in, and I would game with them. And those were some of the most fun times I had. That we would play other games, and they would show me like they ran like a server like for EverQuest or something, and I was like, I don't know what the hell's going on, but I'll play it too. And I was like the kid in the group, but they accepted me, and I had a great time. When you were playing games in middle school, you were a total piece of shit, just like every other teenager. See, I wasn't. I was a good kid. I was just trying to do the best that I could for our guild.
のでやっぱりそのパッチの間で上がり下がりはするただ評判を聞いてずっと増え続けていくっていうのが理想だと思ってるし14はそれでやれてきてるのでただもっともっと遊んでほしいたくさんの人にと思ってるのでチャレンジをまだまだ続けたいとは思ってます。
He's talking about, you know, continuing to take on challenges and pushing yourselves even further. Do you think Final Fantasy XIV takes risks? I can't even think of a specific risk, but do you think like their development path has been like pretty like stable, like par for the course, or do you think they like push? Because I don't know, I haven't been in the space for a while, and I never really thought about it. Do they push the envelope? Do they like push things? Do you think? Yes, you say yes. Guess it's billions, not millions. Linked in article and Discord memes. Putting a cap on Hydaelyn/Zodiac is a huge risk. See, I don't even think about giving people a potential ending point. See, I never like think about stuff like that. But like, what's the benefit of that? Like, what's the? I'm thinking. Yeah, I don't know. Like, what's the end goal there?
The latest expansion pack, Stormblood, comes hot on the heels of 2 years worth of 3.x patches, which have added fresh storylines and features to Heavensward. With it comes increased level caps, new dungeons, jobs, raids, zones, and some changes to the battle system. Stormblood will also mark the end of the game's lifetime on the PlayStation.
Kugane? I was hoping we were gonna get more like in Kugane. Like I saw I saw it in the trailers, and I'm like, man, that city looks dope, but like we're only in there for a little bit. When we got to Kugane, I thought we were gonna get some like political, because they were talking about the embassies in Kugane. I thought there was gonna be some like subterfuge, like, you know, like political schemes going on with the embassies and everything, with like all the different nations and all that. The benefit is finally being free of the ARR lore they were stuck with. But yeah, oh, you're talking about I thought you were talking about Hydaelyn and Zodiac as like the plot of Hydaelyn and Zodiac. I thought you were talking about like like the actual fights for some reason, like a technical cap for, I didn't even know what it was, but like a technical cap. I was like, oh sure, you're talking about the story as a whole. I get it. Yeah, I get it. Some people have already said they're not sure if they're coming back in 7.0 with the end of Hydaelyn arc. Right. You bet this is future expansion content. The rest of Hingashi is still closed off. We never set foot into the mainland. I would love that. I would love to see more of that. They give a huge story a natural conclusion that's risky as hell in my opinion. It's an invitation for people to move on. Right. See, that's interesting too, because you're thinking about it from that perspective of taking risks of like the actual story. I was more thinking along the lines of like, I'm using a general term here, like systems, like systems in the game, you know. But that's a great point. That is a great point.
3.
Yeah, huge.
But of course,
huge.
in the intervening years, the team has since.
But yeah, double-edged sword, right? But on the bright side, it does allow them to, you know, unshackle themselves from that, and then, you know, move forward with something else for better or worse.
Launched the game on the PlayStation 4. Final Fantasy XIV had been a financial.
What was that kid's name?
Launched the game on the PlayStation.
Who? What was his? I forget his name. I forget. But he had, yeah, I remember these kids, but I forget his name.
Final Fantasy XIV had been a financial disaster for Square.
Telling people they don't have to play every day and take breaks, also risky. Not a lot of games do that. That's true. I feel like, yeah, games are, you know, a lot of people, they design their games to keep players on every day. Come back to the game every day, right? There's also places they have indicated but not shown, but with us having gone to the 1st and the 13th now, we still have other worlds within the set we could yeah, and I always think about Emmett Selk's words, right? Talking about all the places that we have yet to discover that we need to go visit. A lot of possibilities, right?
Enix. Subscriptions were turned off for most of the 1.x era, and the company poured
Dude,
significant
we just turned
funds
this
and
into
trust
another hour-long
into the team tasked
reaction.
with its
God damn
rebirth.
it.
The importance of this franchise to the company is mirrored by its importance to its players and, of course, the development team. This is a group of people who have dedicated years into ensuring that this game came back from the dead.
The monologue that
Yoshida-san
delayed the
says he only
expansion? What do you
needs
mean?
about 4 hours sleep a night. I asked him about his social life. He says he doesn't really remember anything except work. He speaks fondly of those players that stuck with the team, those warriors of light that were saved at the end of 1.0. His respect for fans of this game and all Final Fantasy fans is clear to see. The realm of Eorzea is totally different now. A bustling, vibrant place full of stories, quests and adventurers. A world expanded upon even more with the release of Stormblood. But the old world, the story of 1.0, the fall of Dalamud and the people who survived the cataclysm will always live on. Those who were there, be them player or developer, will forever be bound together by that experience.
I didn't recognize the first part of that cutscene with the card, but then I recognized the traversal through the woods to the waterfall and everything. I've seen that part before. Oh, so they delayed Endwalker to add that dialogue from Emmett. Okay. Also, you know, it probably mean, you know, it means something then too, right? Lots of places to explore both on the source and on the other shards, right? Yep. All the other worlds and then, yeah, and on the source too. We turned a 26-minute video into an hour almost.
You know, these
50
myths
minutes so
for
far.
other games. We have a myth that actually happened, but because it happened so long ago and only a few people saw it, most of the new players now, they look at back and it's like, did it really happen? What is this battle with the White Raven and Riven Road? And
what the hell's the White Raven and Riven Road? Explain, Lily, explain.
it was just this grand battle, you know, all different levels and this, you know, dimensional rifts, and it sounds like an actual myth, but it's like it's not. Just
is that the ending? No.
For this, you know,
Was that the ending
actually
thing?
Happened. And
The
you know, as
Dalamud
the
thing?
game progresses and new players come on, I mean, it's further and further back in
That's what I'm
history
saying,
that
more
this
world
thing- this
events.
really cool thing happened.
Give me more.
I mean, that visual works cutscene. I mean, I remember watching it and just like, you know, goosebumps all over. I mean, I'm watching with all of these other, you know, like the directors and producers and, you know, the director of the visual works, and we're all sitting there and they're all watching it, and I'm just watching and like I've got like tear in my eyes. Yeah, it's.
Oh, it's the Final Fight of
and-
1.0.
I mean, it was that powerful because it kind of encompassed not only, you know, what the character went through, it was an image of what we as developers had done as well. At the beginning, we're all, you know, let's do this. It's going to be an adventure. We're like that first cutscene where, you know, with the party that goes out and they have their guild leave and they go out and they fight the Morbol, and that's us at the beginning. And then the release hits you and you're down. I mean, then you have that cutscene where it's just like everyone's working together to make something
Oh, that
new.
looks so cool.
And then it fails, but no, it didn't fail, and you're just, and all of the memories of, you know, the past years, the good and the bad, kind of all come together.
Yeah, nail
and,
Van
you know,
Darnish.
just
Nail
so
darn
overwhelming.
varnish.
And that's you know, pretty much the reaction then when we finally released it to the public that we got. I mean, so many people. I just remember the forums, checking out the forums that day. I mean, people were just like, I've been in tears all day. I've watched it 10 times, and to see that, you know, that everyone felt the same way. It wasn't just, you know, the development team. It's that you have this hardcore group of very, very loyal fans that, you know, they believed in the game. We believed in the game. We stuck together. We were able to build, you know, this new thing that's not just for us, but it's opening up the doors for a whole new audience. But, you know, remember, we were there first. We're the ones that, you know, that stood by it, and we're the ones that did this. And, you know, they have the pride in that. Those players, those warriors of light that were, you know, the before Meteor guys. You know, Yoshida-san in interviews will always talk about, you know, those people that supported us and we couldn't have done it. I mean,
That's Lily. Lily's a before Meteor guy.
sounds so cliche. Oh, we couldn't have done it without your support. Literally, we could not have done it. Literally, we could not have done it. I mean, if there was, those people hadn't remained, we just would like, no, let's forget it. We're not going to do it. We wouldn't
Then
have
I
put
wouldn't
as much
be here
effort in. It would've
hanging
just
out
been,
with y'all.
okay, yeah, whatever.
Life
that's
without
just
Kev.
Free to play, you know.
Wouldn't that be something?
Back when, you know, 1.0 came out, and could you have imagined that 3-4 years later you'd be in a fan event with thousands of people in Germany?
One day I want to do
No,
a
I don't
fan
really
fest thing.
Imagine.
I'd like to
that.
experience
I
one
mean,
for this.
Day, I mean,
I'm
yeah, we
invested
were,
enough.
I mean, always saying one day we want to run a big fan event. we were, actually dreaming to have a huge fan festival in the future at that time. But actually, yeah, we made it. So yeah, that was really great.
Some dreams come true.
Wait,
Yes,
hold
yes.
on. Let's look at the safety
We
precautions
have a
here.
Huge fan festival.
All right, it's not a ball pit, but it's y'all ever do one of these things? One of these like bull riding things or whatever? But that's a behemoth, it looks like, right? But it looks pretty safe to land on. Okay, so they're doing decent there.
In the future. At that
You'd probably
time,
be playing
actually,
Genshin
yeah,
Impact?
We made it. So yeah, that was really
Wearing a cat ear
Some
headband.
dreams come true.
Yes, yes.
I was actually curious about Genshin, just
自分スクエア
out of
長いんですけ
popularity.
れども
I was like wondering why it's so
あんまり
popular.
変な言い方ですけどこう会社に対して貴族意識というかなんかそこはあまりなくてですねやっぱりゲーム作るって誰と一緒に作るかがすごく大切でそこが一番重要だなと思っているんで今回のプロジェクトは本当に組んでみたいというスタッフと組んですごく大きなことがやれてすごい楽しかったし
That's
楽しい
good,
です
man.
って感じで
Yeah. If it could be fun as well, like and worth it, then you
まあ
know.
強調したいことがあるとすればその初日に 1.0 の話をしてましたけど誰か一人そのもしくはデベロップメントチームがということではなくてやっぱり今でも本当に会社自体の大きな
Did anyone get fired over 1.0? I know some people got reshuffled, but did anyone get fired?
過ちがその全ての悪い部分がファイナルファンタジー14で出てしまったっていうそのまあそれはリリースって意味のデータではなくてそれが全て爆発したのがファイナルファンタジー14のオリジナルバージョンだったんじゃないかって本当に強く思ってるのででも今
Tamaka? Which one was that? I forget. I'm
14の
sorry.
リバンプを会社全体としてやって
15!
がリリース
Final
で
Fantasy
きて
15!
スクエニは少しずつ変わってきたと思ってるしもっと変わらなきゃいけないと思ってるもしかすると少し安心してる人たちも今いるのかもしれないけどまだまだ変わらなきゃいけないと思ってるのでなんかそのあたりがうまく伝わってるといいなとは思いますこれは
Yeah, that's good, man. Like change for the sake of change. You know, maybe not the best, but like changing for a reason. That's good, man. Sounds like Yoshi P. They're thinking about it. Like, what can we do to be better, and not changing just for the sake of changing.
なんだろうスクエアエニックスっていう会社が作るゲームに期待してもらってる人が世界中にたくさんいると思うんですけど僕もそうだったからでもまだまだスクエアエニックスってこのレベルじゃないじゃんもっと上いけるじゃんって思ってくれてるはずなのでそのためにはもっと変わらなきゃいけないしチャレンジもしなきゃいけないと思ってるのでそういった要素も今回のそのお話でうまく伝わってくれると嬉しいかなとは思います僕らはそういうつもりでやってますっていうメッセージが少しでもね出ていけばいいなとはプレイヤーの皆さんと会社が望めばそうなってると思いますしプレイヤーの皆さんや会社が他のゲームを作れって望んでくれれば他のゲームを作れるかもしれないし
Is what you mean? He's teasing 16 here. If they decide I should do both projects simultaneously, I probably have to do that.
両方一緒に同時にやってるかもしれないし僕は少なくともスクエアエニックスって今会社の、スタッフで自分の会社なわけではないのでやっぱプレイヤーの皆さんファンの皆さんがスクエアエニックスに何を期待するのかっていうのを会社がどう考えるかだと僕は思ってるんで、まあ、もちろん自分で作ってみたいゲームがないわけじゃもちろんないですけど、まあ、好きなものを作りたいならね会社辞めて自分で会社作って作ればって思っちゃうんでまあ望まれる限りは頑張ろうと思いますけどただそろそろねプロデューサーとディレクターのどっちかは誰かやってくんねえかなって思いますけどね。
Dang. What if Yoshi P left one of the
The tale of the death and
That'd be
rebirth
crazy.
of Final Fantasy XIV Online
But what if he left to
is a
start his own
cautionary tale
thing?
of corporate hubris. It's a story about the power of humility, respect, and unity. A fun story for those of us who knew nothing about it, cherished times for those who were fortunate enough to be there when it all happened, and a wonderful reminder of something we come across so often in life, the idea that reality can often be even more amazing than the fantasy.
Hey, we did it. We did it. Man, we took another 20-something minute video, turned it into almost an hour. Good job.